Good morning. Good morning. Dr. Herbert Harris here. Thank you so much for joining us. I often sit and wonder how things could be this way. I guess we'd better tell them. This is a brand new day. Don't leave it up to the other man or to another day. Take your life into your hands. Make it work out your way. It's not the number of times you stumble down and fall upon the ground. It's the number of times you pick yourself up. Keep on moving on to meet your goals. Come on, everyone. The time to love is here. Let these troubled days be done. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Quentin. How are you today? It is cold in North Carolina. It's 27 degrees. And we are not cut out for that. It really made you walk very quickly from my house to the studio. I mean, I was hopping today. Really excited about today. The year is really in its final completion. We have about 12 more days. Well, counting the day, about 13 days to really bring it home before the end of the year. And so we right now have a great opportunity to rewrite the end of this year, to rewrite our story for the end of this year. For all of you visiting, all of our talks are based on our book, The 12 Universal Laws of Success. And that book has been translated into 9 languages, been around the world, transforming people's lives. And also our home study course, which is a digital course, which you can get right now that the holiday is fast approaching. And also our ultimate bundle, which our ultimate success bundle, which has all of the tools you need to create success in your life, to close out strong and to open up even stronger. So when we look at and by the way, all of those are available at herbertharris.info. herbertharris.info, that's our website, our link tree. When you get to this point in the year, I love to think of this as the final stretch. I was watching that football game the other night where the team came back and scored like 33 points. They were down like 33-3 or something. And in the last quarter, they scored 33 unanswered points and won. Okay. And so the question is, what can you do in the final stretch? The last 12, 13 days of this year. What can you do on a daily basis to make this year still your year for success and to position you so that next year you can do even greater things? Well, number one is a mindset. Very often when you get, as they say, when you're down in the scoreboard and there are only 2 minutes left, that 2-minute drill in football is amazing. Someone should do a study how many games are won in the last 2 minutes. There was one game I see that was won in the last 3 seconds. And so the mindset change is never give up, never quit. And so even though you're behind 50-0, and the rational mind says that you have very little, the percentage of the possibility of your winning are 0 and nothing, negligible, 0.0001. But if you notice how unusual things happen, I saw one game, one team was coming out and they fumbled and the fellow just picked it up and ran into the end zone, scored, touchdown. So literally it was like 2 touchdowns scored within like 30 seconds. And so life is like that, but you have to have the mindset for victory, the winner's mindset. And so as we look at the last days of this year, to ask yourself, what can I do to change the outcomes that will surely happen this year? What can I do over the next 12 days to change it, to change the outcomes, to make this year better for me? And the mindset change is this. Many times people look at these last few days and they go like, man, there's no time to do it. I should have done more earlier. I could have done this, but I didn't. And so what I'm going to do is let me just get ready for next year. But one of the interesting things about life is whatever you do in the present, get ready means really doing nothing. Getting ready to do something next year is really procrastination of the nth degree. So the mindset change is there's something I can do. And to ask that question, what can I do right now to make this a better year for me? Perhaps you had some financial goals. Suppose your goal was to save $4,800 this year. You'd broken it down. That's $400 a month for 12 months. January through November, you failed. You did not do it. You did not set aside the $400 a month. And now we're in the last days of December. We have 2 weeks left. So let's think about this. If your goal was $4,800 and that breaks down to $400 a week, then here you are now with basically 2 weeks left in the year. What can you do to position yourself for next year so that this year is not a total flat? Well, you could go for the $4,800. You can say, what can I do to make $4,800 in 12 days? And you know what? That's not a bad idea. You may have that $1 million idea right here in your mind. And I want us to always pay attention to our minds. We all have $1 million ideas and we just push them aside. The interesting thing about $1 million ideas is if you don't act on it, somebody else will. So you may have $1 million idea that you can execute. I went down wrong. Gotta watch that. You may have $1 million idea that you can execute between now and the end of this year that can overcome that, whatever you didn't do the earlier part of the year. And if so, lay out a plan to get it done. And a wish is not a plan. If you have $1 million idea, what are the steps you can start taking right now to manifest your $1 million idea and close out this year stronger than ever? If you can't write it down, if you can't make a step-by-step daily plan that you can accomplish. One of my salespeople was at the end of the year and they had not, reached their quota for the year. And now all of a sudden they said, when they calculated how many people they have to call to make the number of sales necessary to complete their goals for the year, it came down to 350 people a day for the next 10 days. Guess what? Is that possible? Probably not. There's a time constraint. So whenever you set a goal, there's always the goal itself has some constraints. So if you say, you look at a day, if I got to make sales calls, if I spend 5 minutes per day, 5 minutes per call, that gives me 12 calls in an hour. And let's take away 2 of them because I got to change up and, look at my notes. So that's 10 calls an hour. So at the very best, you might make 8 hours a day, 80 calls that day. Now, I'm not discounting that stuff happens. that miracles take place. You might make that one call. Last January, someone bought 1,500 copies of the 12 Universal Laws of Success. There wasn't a bookstore. It was somebody who was doing a mentoring program. And they bought it retail. Now that was exciting. But I could not have predicted that. It didn't happen in February, between this particular source. But what it said was the work that we had done prior to January had put us in a position that a person could make that purchase. And so as you're closing out this year, back to our initial example, if you just done poorly the earlier part of the year, what can you do these last 2 weeks if your goal was to save $4,800? The one thing you can do is do the daily routine. Say, okay, all right, let me definitely save $100 a week. That's 2 weeks. So that means that even though I screwed up the earlier part of the year, the last 2 weeks of this year, I achieved my weekly goals, which if I continue, I will achieve my goal next year, maybe even better. Everybody follow me on that? And so rather than throw in the towel and say next year is going to be a great year. Good morning, Lynette. Thank you. Connor West. Thank you. Let's see. Cables, Lucien. Hey, Lucien, my classmate. How are you? Yay, Williston. And so if we at least look at the last 2 weeks of the year and say, you know what, if I at least accomplish what I set out to do, what I said I was going to do this year, it gives you a certain amount of satisfaction. And so what can I do now to set aside $100 a week for each of the 2 weeks ending in the year? The interesting thing is if you accomplish that goal, it now puts you in the rhythm for success next year. Does that make sense? So let's look at this, closing out the final stretch. These last few days of the year, set a goal for these last 2 weeks of the year. Don't worry about what you didn't do and all that stuff, but set a goal that's specific. Maybe it's a relationship goal. Maybe there's some people you need to call before the end of the year to really restore or improve or expand that relationship. There may be some people you need to cut off. But look at maybe some relationship goals. What can you do over the next 2 weeks to bring about this change in relationship that you want? Maybe it's some habit goals. Maybe you're doing some things that have really been unproductive and undermining anything that you've attempted to do. So maybe you need to stop smoking. You've been on some dietary goals and you say, well, I talked to my doctor and the doctor said if I could lose 25 pounds, most of my health issues would go away. My blood pressure would go down. My diabetes would be better. My arthritis, my knees would stop hurting. Whatever those things are. You can't do them all, but you can say this. Over these next 2 weeks, I can commit to walk every day. Over these next 2 weeks, I can commit to be more aware of my diet and don't eat or do eat these particular things. Over these next 2 weeks, I can do certain things. So even a goal like a weight loss goal, there's something you can do right now. At least if you say, by the end, I had these lofty goals at the beginning of the year, but what I can say is these last 2 weeks, I lost 3 pounds. That means you got to keep a score, got to monitor it. So the point is that set goals are specific, measurable. See, if you set goals that are not measurable, how do you interpolate? How do you put that into a daily method of operation? You got to say, well, I want to be happy, of course. Well, what does that mean over the next 2 weeks? So whatever those specific goals are, they must be measurable so that you can break it down now into daily activities. It must be set in advance, and clearly that's what we're doing. That's the one thing. The fact that you're doing it right now, where there are 14 days or 12 days left in the year, you're setting the goal in advance so that December 31st, this is what you will have accomplished. It must be realistic based on where you are right now. And that's where we often undermine our possibilities. From sales, Quentin is in insurance, and he's done sales in the stock market arena. And you know that if you do X number of calls, you'll get Y results. Well, if you want these results and it requires 1,000 calls a day, that's not realistic. So set goals that are realistic based on your track record. You know, many times we put ourselves under too much stress by setting goals that are totally unrealistic based on where we are right now. Kenya Crooks is a great personal trainer, and there are times people come to his gym and like, I want to snatch, jerk 250 pounds. Okay. How much weight did you lift yesterday? Didn't lift any. How about last week? Haven't been to a gym in 2 years. That's an unrealistic goal, and you set yourself up for failure. So a realistic goal based on where you are right now. And then finally, that other key, the time period. So the time period is set. In other words, 12 days to the end of the year. You're setting it in advance. You're doing it this day. And you're making a commitment to do what you must do each and every day to close out strong. And so over these next 12 days, I'll give you some tips. After you have written your goals down, number one, write your action plan for the next day. In our book, Chapter 7 is the law of action. To show you how to write your action plan. Write your action plan the night before you go to bed. Now, that's a very simple commitment. Write your action plan the night before, and don't wait until you're tired, because you will definitely not do it. But write your action plan the night before. List the things that must be done. Make a note of the amount of time it should take, and schedule the time that you must do it. Of all these things, scheduling the time means you have now an appointment to do what must be done to take you where you want to go. When you have an appointment, there's a greater tendency that you will do it. So that's number one, to commit to do that. You can do that. I don't care whether you're broke, whatever failures you've had up to this point, you can do this. Number two, whatever that goal is that you set to get to the end of this year, read it aloud 3 times. And I'm gonna give you some help. 3 specific times. Of all the things that can help you manifest your dreams and manifest your goals, to read it aloud. Every success book says read it aloud at least 3 times a day. And of all of the success, operations, that's the one that most people don't do. But when you read it aloud, you're really putting spiritual principle in action. And when the book of Genesis, it says, in the beginning was the word. So people literally speak their world into existence. And so if you read that goal over, let's just say it was a weight loss goal, right? Say, over these next 2 weeks, I am going to lose 5 pounds. That's a lofty goal, but it's doable. Over the next 2 weeks. And so schedule that. 8 o'clock in the morning, I lose 5 pounds. And you may even put it in the absolute. I am 5 pounds lighter. If you have a specific weight, you may put it in the absolute. So let's say you weighed 175 pounds. Then your affirmation could be, I weigh 170 pounds. And when you say it, visualize how you will look at 170 pounds. At 12 noon, say it. Good idea to stand in front of your mirror and do a mirror treatment. I weigh 170 pounds. At night, after you've had your dinner, before you get sleepy, at say 9 o'clock, stand in front of that mirror. I weigh 170 pounds. Now that's a small example, but whatever that goal is that you write down, and let me tell you folks, if you don't write the goals that you want to accomplish over the next 12 days, it's probably not going to happen. You have to obey spiritual law to get specific results. So you affirm 3 times a day. Let's give you a time. 12, noon, 8. Let's do 8, 12, and 8. 8 a.m., affirm it. 12 noon, affirm it. 8 p.m., affirm it. Make your list, the night before, writing out the things to be done, the time it takes, and schedule the activities that you're supposed to do. During the day, as stuff happens, there will be all kinds of distractions and people and situations during the day. Every time you are confronted with what to do with your time this very moment, ask yourself the time question. Is this the best use of my time right now when I consider my goals for this year, my vision and my purpose? Sometimes you may not be clear. If you want to know what's the best thing to do, what is the best use of my time right now when I consider my goals, my vision, and my purpose? And I'm talking about the goals for these last 12 days. And then once you ask yourself the time question, act accordingly. So many times we're in the holiday season. I got invited to more Christmas parties. I had to speak yesterday in church. And so something came up unexpectedly. A friend died, so I had a funeral to attend and speak at 12 noon on Saturday. And then my classmates were having the ball, the Townsman Ball, which is a big ball in Wilmington, the 71st year. And I had 4 of my classmates that we were in the 3rd grade together back before the flood. Lucienne was one of my classmates, by the way. So we had 4 of our classmates there, Chico and some others, and Robert and Hayes. Okay. And so when I looked at my time right now, it's like, is this the best use of my time to be at an event, the night before I have to speak? But when you evaluated the event, to look at where we are in our lives and how many of us who are here this year and how many of us were here last year who are not here this year. And so I made a value judgment. Said, you know what, it's important. I want to see my classmates. We're at that point of our lives where we need to be very diligent about seeing one another and connecting because the time clock is running. And so I did it. Well, what does that mean now? So that meant that after the funeral, I could not go to dinner as I had planned to do, and a couple other things, but I scratched them off my list, made some changes. And so between 4 and 7, I focused on my message. Now you say, Reverend, you speak every day, every week, every Sunday, but you always have to get into the vibration of the message. So the point is that in the final stretch, you do the things that you can do to bring about the results that you desire. So to summarize, number 1, have that mindset of completion, that these next days are a gift from God. And what you do with these next days are your gift to God. Number 2, commit to write out your goals, the goals to get you to the end of this year. SMART goals, specific, measurable, set in advance, realistic based on where you are, and to cover a certain time period. Number 3, commit to read those goals over 3 times a day at least, at 8 a.m., at 12 noon, and 8 p.m. You may have to adjust the times a little bit based on your schedule, but it's got to be done. Number 4, take that list that you've written out the night before and execute that list on a moment-to-moment basis. And when interruptions occur, ask yourself, what is the best use of my time right now? Or is this the best use of my time right now, and act accordingly? That if you do those things, that at the end of this year, you will be in a position of completion. I guarantee you that if you accomplish that goal, lose that 5 pounds. I guarantee you, if you accomplish that goal, to save that $100 or that $200, that whatever the goals were, I guarantee that when you accomplish them at the end of this year, it will create a vibration of satisfaction that will set you up to make next year your year for outrageous success. Wow. You have the power to be what you want to be, do what you want to do, and have anything you desire. Always knowing that the best is yet to come. And so it is. This is Dr. Herbert Harris inviting you once again as you close out this year. Go to our website, herbertharris.info. Get the home study course, to give you a home study course to help you transform your life, give you the tools and everything you need to get everything you want. Look at the Ultimate Success Bundle. And that bundle has everything you need, has a version of the book and the digital book. It has the workbook. It has the home study course as a part of it. It has the audio book, 6 hours of recorded information that you can listen to in your car. And it has all kinds of other goodies. So if there was one thing I'd like to get that will change your life forever, get the Ultimate Success Bundle at herbertharris.info, www.herbertharris.info. So once again, folks, thanks so much for being with us. You can be what you want to be, do what you want to do, and have anything you desire, always knowing that the best is yet to come. And here we go. It's not the number of times you stumble down and fall upon the ground. It's the number of times you pick yourself up and keep on moving on to meet your goals. All right. See you on Wisdom Wednesday. Thanks so much for being with us. Thank you. Laser focus. Thank you, Lynette. That's important. Laser focus, to be, do, and have